My name's Sean Hodges-Colavito. I'm the Group Revenue Manager for Kingfisher Bay Resort on Fraser Island. So my role is the Revenue Manager. So I look after predominantly the accommodation revenue for both resorts. So revenue management, in a fairly simple, sort of a simple explanation for revenue management, is using historical data to determine customer buying behaviour and then using that data in order to maximise room rates and maximise total revenue. So on a daily basis, I'm tracking specific metrics such as occupancy, average daily rate, Revpar, and using that to measure our performance against past performances as well as current and future goals. Sure, I guess when we talk about metrics, measuring performance is an underlying principle of any successful business. If you don't know where you've come from, you'll never know where you're going in the future. And in order to make sure that you are accurately predicting changes and you're responding to those changes in an appropriate manner, you have to measure your results against something. So those metrics become really, really important for us. Occupancy is basically the percentage of rooms sold. So an average daily rate is the average rate that's been sold for the occupied rooms. So average daily rate, particularly throughout Queensland, varies depending on the regional location. So my average daily rate is very different to a city hotel here in Brisbane. City hotels have a lot more competition, so their average daily rate is going to fluctuate from extremes depending on the season and the events that are taking place. Our property is in a rather unique position in that we have very little competition specifically on Fraser Island, but we need to take a broader look around us to take a look at things such as other islands like Hayman Island, Hamilton Island, and even places like Fiji, for example, tend to fall into our competitor set because they're the destinations that people are choosing over Fraser Island. So the average daily rate that we're looking at tends to be quite broad. So Revpar is probably the preferred metric within revenue management at the moment, depending on who you ask. But Revpar basically blends average daily rate and occupancy into one key statistic. So it means that instead of looking at two statistics to get a gauge of your overall performance, you can look at one metric that really sort of cruxes down into the exact performance of the property at any time. That's not to say that occupancy and average daily rate don't play a part. They're certainly still important metrics, but we always start by looking at our Revpar result or a revenue per available room result based on a segment or a room type or an overall property Revpar as well. And then we drill down into occupancies and average daily rate from there to really get a good grasp over what it is that is changing, if there is any changes. So when we talk about rate development or price development, we need to take into account a lot of different aspects to customer buying behaviour. So that can be lead time, it can be past average daily rate, it can be room type that's purchased as well. So when we think about something or a segment like an OTA, for example, take Expedia, we will generally publish our public rates or our general rates if you want, and that's because anyone is able to buy a rate off Expedia, so you don't have to come from a particular group of people within society. If we take a look at something like weddings or conferences, for example, though, what we need to do is actually take a step back from just the room revenue and take into account all of the ancillary revenue that comes along with opportunities like that. So a wedding, for example, we might have day spa revenue, we'll have food and beverage spend, we'll have ferry spend, particularly on Fraser Island. We've got venue hire coming into that as well. So we need to take that into account. And what that generally means is that the customers buying a wedding rate are going to pay a different rate to someone booking the same room on the OTA channel. If you take a look at an OTA rate or the rate that's on my website for tonight, for example, it might be $180 if you book it direct with the property or on an OTA. But if you're a member of a specific closed user group or you've subscribed to an email database, then you might be entitled to a 10% discount, but you're only entitled to that discount if you are part of that group or part of that segment of people. So rate parity is a really hot topic in revenue management at the moment, and it's quite difficult to control. So basically rate parity means that it doesn't matter where you go online. If it's a public rate, it should be the same as what's on my website. We tend to try and make a bit of a practice of making sure that our website always has the best rate. So you might find that an OTA rate is slightly higher than our website, but generally, in most cases, you will find that the rates are pretty much exactly the same. Disparity at this point in time tends to come from what we call rogue rating within the industry, and that's where a static rate or a contracted rate might be sent off to a travel agent such as Flight Centre or AOT, and those contract rates find their way out into the public domains on websites, and the people responsible, the organisations responsible for putting those rates online tend to undercut the hotel's websites by slashing out some of their commission, which is why sometimes if you go onto Trivago or Hotels Combined, you'll find that there's a whole bunch of different rates, and probably from websites that you've never heard of before. We definitely do make a practice of changing our rate per segment. The rate that is ultimately paid really comes down to what sort of room displacement will occur by taking on a group, for example, ancillary revenue opportunities that come through from a group or a particular style of business as well. So one great example of having different rates in market is a campaign that we run almost on an annual basis with a company called Luxury Escapes. So their business model is basically around severely discounting and promoting severely discounted business to their customer base. Now we take up that opportunity because within a matter of 3 weeks we have the potential to earn in excess of $1 million in room revenue and fill in a whole bunch of distressed inventory within a very short period of time that we don't need to track down throughout the year. We can focus our energies then on filling the rest of our rooms with the other business opportunities that we know or expect to come along. We'll sell a cheaper rate in order to maximise our occupancy throughout the year. And generally what we do from that point then is look at higher revenue business opportunities to increase our average daily rate and increase our Revpar throughout the year. So one of the first questions I always get asked when people ask me what job I do and I say revenue manager, they always respond with, oh, so you're an accountant. And now I'm not an accountant in any way, shape or form. And the way I explain this to people usually is that accountants count money, revenue managers make money. So I'm not responsible for any of the financial outcomes at the end of the day. I look at profits and losses, but I'm not responsible for building profits and losses. So my job really is all about maximising opportunity, maximising growth in both occupancy and total revenue. And the only way that I can actually achieve that result is by communicating any change that I make to almost all departments, but particularly the frontline departments like front office and reservations who are actually selling the product on a daily basis. Within revenue management, every decision that you make impacts department managers across the entire property. So having a good working relationship or a close working relationship with every department manager is absolutely vital. You cannot make a decision without the buy-in or the agreement of almost every department manager there is. So You have to be able to communicate clearly. You have to be able to present your ideas in an informed and present business case scenarios to those department managers to get them on side with you.